Bobby Goodson was a man bound to the swamp, his crew, and a family business he fought to protect. Swamp loggers captured the raw, high-stakes world of swamp logging in North Carolina, where danger and sacrifice were a daily reality. When the show ended, fans were left in the dark, desperately searching for answers. Now Bobby reveals why the show will never return, and it's a heartbreaking truth. Swamp Loggers wasn't just another reality show. It was an unfiltered look into one of the most dangerous industries in America. At the center was Bobby Goodson, whose family-run company, Goodson's All-Terrain Logging, was built on the harsh swamps of North Carolina. This wasn't scripted drama. It was real. The crew battled unpredictable weather, machines sinking into the swamp, and constant breakdowns, while Bobby carried the weight of every paycheck and every decision. Swamp Loggers wasn't just about massive machines battling the swamp. It was about the men behind them, men like Bobby Goodson who fought for survival, for each other, and for a disappearing way of life. Bobby was more than a boss. He was a leader, guiding his crew through brutal conditions and genuine challenges. Fans tuned in not for scripted drama, but for the raw, authentic struggles that defined each episode. When the show ended suddenly, fans were left with one big question: why? Over time, the mystery of Swamp Loggers' cancellation became as legendary as the show itself. Logging in the swamp wasn't just a job, it was a battle. The terrain was unforgiving, with machines often sinking into the mud, fuel costs soaring, and every day bringing new dangers. Snakes, storms, and equipment breakdowns made the job even riskier. Bobby embraced the challenge, seeing it as an opportunity to push his crew and his company forward, even as the swamp fought back. As the show brought Bobby and his crew into living rooms across America, viewers saw more than just the machines. They saw Bobby's leadership, his grit, and his unwavering commitment to his crew and their families. But the fame came at a cost. The pressure of filming, deadlines, and constant scrutiny added stress, turning every mistake into public spectacle. Behind the scenes, Bobby worried about rising costs, financial pressure, and the survival of his business. As the show continued, the cracks in the logging industry became impossible to ignore. Fuel prices, equipment costs, and declining mill demand were all taking a toll. While the audience saw the excitement of swamp logging, Bobby saw the quiet financial strain that would eventually catch up with him. The swamp had always demanded a lot, but now it was demanding more than it could give. By the mid-2000s, the logging industry was in crisis. Even the toughest men couldn't control the economy. For Bobby, every investment in new equipment felt less like progress and more like gambling. The very forces that made Swamp Loggers a hit, the drama, the unpredictability, the struggle, were now dismantling his business. And Bobby carried that burden in silence. When Swamp Loggers was canceled after 4 seasons, the world was left without closure. The show had been a hit, but it vanished without warning, leaving fans wondering why. For Bobby, the end of filming was both a relief and a reckoning. The cameras had captured every struggle, but they hadn't captured the full weight of the toll the show had taken on him and his crew. In interviews later on, Bobby admitted that the constant pressure of being on camera had only intensified the strain of an already brutal job. Every mistake, every breakdown was immortalized for millions to see, adding to the stress that was already pushing him to his limits. Television brought Bobby Goodson recognition, but also pressure to an already demanding job. After Swamp Loggers ended, Bobby returned to focusing on his business, but the challenges didn't stop. Economic and environmental forces continued to chip away at his dream. For nearly a decade, Goodson's all-terrain logging pressed on, but rising costs, market tightening, and nature's storms added strain. By 2020, the pandemic shattered the industry. Mills shut down, supply chains collapsed, and fuel prices soared, turning every day into a gamble. By 2022, Bobby faced undeniable truth. His once profitable business was losing money. The financial burden, combined with rising costs, pushed Bobby to a breaking point. After nearly 4 decades, he announced in a live stream that Goodson's all-terrain logging was shutting down. The swamp had taken its toll, and even Bobby's resilience couldn't overcome it. Bobby sat before the camera, a man weathered by years of toil. His voice was steady, but his eyes revealed the weight of his decision. "I can't hide this any longer," he said, as he announced the end of Goodson's all-terrain logging. The company that had made swamp loggers a success was shutting down, forced to close by soaring costs, dwindling markets, and the pressures of an unsustainable industry. For fans, the news was devastating. The hope for a revival of the show, for a return to the swamp, vanished in an instant. The ending wasn't a dramatic plot twist. It was economic reality. The swamp had claimed its price, and Bobby's company could no longer endure. "I can't hide this any longer," he repeated, as the live stream fell silent. The machines that once roared through the swamps now stood still, rust creeping in. The roads once filled with timber trucks were silent, overtaken by nature's stillness. For Bobby, this wasn't just the end of a family business. It was the conclusion of a lifelong battle against impossible odds. The truth was heartbreaking, but it was undeniable. Without Goodson's all-terrain logging, there would be no revival of swamp loggers. The era had ended, not by choice, but by necessity. In his confession, Bobby Goodson gave his fans, crew, and himself a chance to face the truth. This wasn't a failure born of neglect. It was the inevitable result of an industry battered by forces too powerful for any one man to fight. The swamp had always tested him with its mud and machinery, but now the test was different. It wasn't just about the physical grind anymore. It was about surviving in an unforgiving market, where even a man as tough as Bobby couldn't fight back the crushing weight of economic reality. But in the end, this wasn't defeat. It was a legacy. Swamp loggers hadn't just been entertainment. It had shown the world a dying way of life, a profession lived in the margins, far from city lights and boardrooms. It captured the grit, danger, and camaraderie of men who worked in places most wouldn't dare go. When Bobby laid down the burden, it wasn't failure, but respect he earned. Respect from fans and anyone who understood what it meant to fight until there was nothing left. Swamp loggers wouldn't return, but it didn't need to. Its story had been told. Its legacy was preserved in memory, in the hum of the machines, and in the hearts of those who had watched it. The farewell was final, but it was full of dignity. Bobby ensured the end was meaningful, not empty. The swamp may be quiet now, but the legacy of Goodson's all-terrain logging lives on in the stories, the episodes replayed, and the quiet strength of a man who never gave up. Bobby gave fans the answer they'd waited for, sparking conversations about the future of logging and the lasting impact of swamp loggers. The question now is simple. Is this the end, or just a chapter in Bobby's lasting legacy? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.